I wanted to just show a few things, only a few, that like what can you do with it, what is useful. For instance, you have a patient and with very let's say general symptoms, and that's always difficult. How the patient is complaining of not enough vitality. My vitality is low. I wished I was more vital, you know. I have no energy and all that. So that's very general. And then he says, and I have all these environmental issues, you know, I'm so sensitive to this, I'm sensitive to fumes, to perfume, to exhaust, to pollen, to whatever. Again, very general. Where will you find it? And then he said, let's say I'm weak, you know, again, a very general symptom. I'm so weak, and especially in my legs, etc. So you have like a 2-hour consultation, and that's more or less what you extract. Now, if you put these words in the family finder, you can always give it a go. That's what I'm trying to show. You put in like vitality. Vitality seems to be the issue with the patient, how general it might be. And then you think, well, maybe environment, he's sensitive to his environment. So I always boil it down to the minimum words, no long sentences, but the minimum word. And then do the weak or the weak legs even. You can do weakness or weak legs. You can try both. And because weak legs is more specific than weakness in general. And then see where you go. See what is the result. So that would be like everything you get out of the case, that's it.
Yeah.
And that is your suggestion. So the suggestion is kind of interesting. The first 3 things that the family finder will give you is 2D solutions. 2 of them are families, like the family of the viruses and the family of the bacteria. So you think, aha, that's an interesting thing to consider. And the first is Borrelia, which is a bacterium. So it's like, that seems to be the area where to look for. And if you then go in the down box, then you see the Borrelia has the vitality issue, have the weak legs and weak in general, limited weak. And the environment is sensitive to environment, exhaust and fumes. Well, that seems to hit all the boxes. So that's nice. Then you can have, of course, a differential diagnosis with viruses. What about the viruses? Should I consider those? There, the weakness, and this weak and sick seems to be the most important since it is underlined. So that's like the experienced. I'm weak and I'm sick. Have a low vitality, so that would be the same. And then the environment leads you to something else. It needs to know many different environments in order to adapt. Okay, it's environment, but it's not your patient's environmental issue. It's an interest in different environments for a reason. So that would make your differentiation between bacteria and virus on the basis of those words. Because very often it's difficult. Like you think, okay, virus or bacteria, which one should it be? Could it be? And with these very general symptoms, you come to these groups. Consider there are more. You can see there's also 3D and etc. You can check them all, but then the numbers are less. It's Citrus limonum has only 2 hits, monocots has only 1, and then you are in 3D, so you have to differentiate between those. If you don't know exactly which one to choose, you can always either type in family 2D and check, or you can go to the map and see what is the 2D and the 3D differentiation. So that would also be a help if you're not sure, because the first three are 2D and the 3 following ones are 2D and 3D. So if you're not sure, you can go to the map and check.
I think you can do it by looking over here, can't you?
That would be the easiest, I think. And then you can see, for instance, okay, 2D.
These are
and
the
then
keywords.
Exactly.
So the black type is represents 2D and the red 3D.
Exactly. So that makes it easy because you see it at the first glance, which dimension I have to choose. If you still have doubts and you go to the actual 2D or 3D, you also have like the rows on which the bacteria or the viruses are positioned. So you can see the bacteria are here on row 2. So on the map, it's visible immediately.
So we can show the map so the viewers
can see the overview, but you can already see the color.
Let's try and
on your
there it
right
is.
box. There's the map.
There's the map.
And then you have an overview. You scroll down and you have an overview. So now what you showed just a second ago, this orange color or box means you're on the second row.
So like
the bacteria.
Like the carbon row. And when you were talking initially, I was thinking it sounds like carbons as well, with the sensitivity to all the exhaust fumes and environment.
Exactly. Exactly. And there you see the viruses below on 7th. So there's another differentiation to make.
Yes, because they're in the radioactives.
Yes, so they have a whole other, let's say, identity makeup, where in the 2D, the identity is so weak and undeveloped and immature and dependent of the other in order to even exist, because that's the row 2. You're still in a symbiotic relationship and a very dependent relationship, while viruses are so, self-aware. They know who they are, their identity is in place, they go out in the world. So this cannot be confused because they're so far apart, but you have a visual picture of that when you see the map.
That's really interesting, because viruses cause genetic mutations in a similar way, I suppose, to radioactivity.
Exactly, that's why they're on 7th. And also when you talk to a virus person, they might start the interview with my vitality is low and I feel weak and I always feel sick, etc., etc. So it will sound like weak and sick bacteria-like, but then the personality is so much more contained, like I know who I am, I want to do many things, I want to go out. So this independence is going out in the world. Cannot be confused with this very dependent bacteria person.
Right.
And the map shows it in one glance because they're so far apart. They're not even neighbors.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Could you say a little bit more about sort of using the rows of the periodic table and how you see, like, when somebody's in a sort of, they're like presenting their case in a 2-dimensional way as opposed to a 3-dimensional way?
Well, yeah, the 2-dimensional way is, you could say it's a more simple case, and I'm repeating this again and again. Doesn't mean your patient is a simpleton.
Yeah.
They're not they're backward people. I mean, they will get high IQs, high educated, and well-performing. But your case is more simple,
one problem.
while it like boils down to one problem. And if they have 2 problems, the issue will be the same. So it is more simple. Now, what is also a 2-dimensional context, not only the more sober consultation, the more simple issue, the more one problem. It's all about the words that you see there above. It's about emptiness, existence, it's about capacity, function. Usually I say, when a patient starts saying, I cannot, you're into, I can't do this, I can't do that, my capacity is low, I don't have the capacity, all these different synonyms are the same. But the the context, and that's a bit difficult to put in a map, is in the 2nd dimension, you will have to ask for question after question after question.
I really recognize that,
It's really, they take off, you ask a question and they start talking. And
they're engaging.
They're engaging, and 2D is more like they put you in the role of the healer, because it's all about the role, function, meaning, this is all 2D. And you are more a role play than a person. They're not really interested in you. It's just you're happy.
I guess, yeah, and there's this quality of dependence, so it's like they're depending on you to ask the right questions and
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
lead them into where they're going to tell you what's wrong.
Yeah, and you ask the
Yeah.
question, they answer, they give you definition, they give you facts that they think that is what you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order to help them.
Yeah. So I suppose when people have studied kingdoms, they're going to be aware of these qualities of, you know, the case boiling down to something and a lack of capacity. They're going to think, oh, it's minerals. But with your sort of categorization into second and third dimensions, now they can consider these other groups like gemstones and sarcodes and bacteria alongside minerals, so they're less likely to miss these underused remedies.
Yes, because I'm quite sure all these other people get minerals.
Yeah.
All the sarcode people and gemstone people and bacteria people, like there's a minimum. It's a bacteria. It's not like an intercurrent one or because they are having a you know, some chronic disease. It's just a minimum there. That's what they need in order to be like harmonized as a whole.
Yeah.
And probably they will receive minerals because they have this mineral-like way of relating to you, and the case is very mineral-like, you know, and the issue is very mineral-like, but it's not a mineral.
Yeah, so I hope that people will see that there's like an immediate usefulness to adopting this categorization with 2D and 3D. Because I can see it personally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite obvious once you know what it means. It like it's as I say, it's at one glance. It's like in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Rocks and stones, of course, are mixtures of elements, if you want.
Yeah.
Gemstones is a special form of elements. It's on the crystal grid, so they are related. It's the bacteria, the sarcode. You could say, well, you know, sarcodes are animal or human tissue or hormones or whatever products. Shouldn't they be in 3D? Well, the way they present, I feel, and I've seen and experienced many times in my practice, is they present as a 2D.
Yeah.
As, although they are products of animal, they are like not the whole animal anymore. They are like just representing that very simple either organ or product, which is then a chemical. It's very effective. It's like a chemical or the organ in itself. Now, this is maybe a little bit philosophical, but basically in homeopathy, we symbolize, because there's no difference, there's no scientific or factual difference between lac leoninum, let's say, or lac whatever, lac suis, which is pig, and liver, because it's pig liver. And in the one case, we take the milk of the pig, and then the sarcode case, and we call it the mammal. And in the sarcode case, we take a piece of the liver, and we say it's a sarcode, while there is no difference, basically. But we say this is a mammal because we say so, and the proving will be mammal proving, and we say this is a sarcode, and the proving will be a sarcode.
Yes, I suppose milk is still a sarcode as well.
Of course it is. All the mammals and all the animals we have are basically sarcodes. It's not the whole animal, you know, crushed in a vial and then diluted. It's always like the milk, the hair, the blood, something.
Yeah, and there's remedies like koala that are proved from the hair of the mammal, and it still has a very strong mammal or milk picture when you look at the proving.
It's the hair or it's the blood, it's the feather of a bird, and it's still the bird. We don't say it's a sarcode.
It's still the DNA, isn't it? The same DNA. Yeah. Interesting. And so over here in the third dimension, obviously there's more complexity here, looking at the different groups. So maybe we can walk through it. So we have an in-between stage with the fungi. What's your take on that?
Well, still working on it. I have to say the map is a work in progress, of course. And what I've seen, or what I concluded so far from the fungi cases I've seen. I would put them on the second row, since they're like also dependent, immature, very carbon-like.
Yeah.
So the fungi are often confused with carbons.
Yeah.
Although I put them in 3D, and I see also these plant characteristics.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, they were included in the plant kingdom. Yeah, we know they're not, but they have a lot of plant presentations. There are like mixtures, a little bit of plant, a little bit of carbon. That's why we would confuse. They can also be drug-like, the group, and of course we have drugs, but they can be like, carbon can be kind of dull,
yeah,
which usually fungi are not.
no,
So that is where you would separate them. And they have this typical awkwardness, but that is only one word to say the way they behave, the way they speak. They have an awkwardness in speech. They don't understand social conventions very well, or not at all even. That's a gradation. So as a group, they stand on themselves. But then the differentiation between, the slime molds and the real fungi, the fleshy fungi, I'm still working on.
It's a large kingdom, but that ties in with, I've read Massimo's book on the fungi, and he talks about eccentricity as one of the
absolutely
the ways they have to be different, and that you get that impression just from the looking at them in nature, don't you? They're so different in what they do to other plants.
Yes, they are completely different. I agree, and they are like you could say at the beginning and at the end of life. They clean up the things that are decaying and recycling and start all over again. So they are completely different in their appearance and in their function and all that. But still, they are very connected, or maybe very overlapping with plant-like characteristics. But since they are on this road too, this dependence, this immaturity, this childishness even makes them sometimes carbon-like. Are they not further developed than carbon?
Well, they dwell in a very carbon-rich environment, don't they?
Yes,
the soil.
As well. Yes, as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then, so there's some mapping here of the plants and animal groups as well onto the rows of the periodic table. So, do you have what would you say then about how you've approached kind of mapping the different groups to these rows?
Well, I think I'm in line with Jan Scholten. Then he puts all the angiosperms on row 6.
Yes.
If you go down, so the other dicots would be row 6. That means he says lanthanides, row 6. That means that the ego is self-aware, is flourishing. That's why you see it somewhere in the vertical line. The ego is in place. It knows who it is. There's a feeling of this is me. And then that is the whole angiosperm world, which is many of our patients are there. And then you have the orders and the differentiation between classes and families and all that, which you find on the other side of the map. But I have the idea, I've seen in my cases, that the monocots are not there yet. The monocots are more up on the characteristics of the periodic table, because they're still very dependent on Mama. And Mama is how could I say, also a symbol of dependency and symbiotic relationship. It's also the feminine quality. So we can do this like for a tryout. If you go to the Family Finder, we can do it in a minute if you want, and you put in mother and dependent and just see where you come. So the mother will always be there, in a monocot, it's mother. And there's a big dependency on.
Okay, so a monocot first.
So it brings you to colchicum, it brings you to cyperus, it brings you to asparagus. There are different monocots, but they're all monocots. And if you see why, because the mother issue is somewhere there.
Yeah.
It's always somewhere there. Yeah. If you see, asparagus is to behave, me as a mother, prove to be a good mother. That is the whole issue. Because asparagus, we know, is me. Yeah, how does the world look at me as a mother? Because that's the most important thing. And the mother, I say, is a symbol. It can also be the feminine aspect.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
That's why also in the map it says mama and papa, because papa is where the masculine aspect comes in.
Paternal, yeah. Yeah, okay, so there's more paternal influence, and that's, is there some influence from Michal's book when you're thinking of the masculine, feminine archetypes in the plants?
Well, I think she has a very good point in seeing this as like a cluster of characteristics.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and an archetype. So
an archetype, which we all have
truth.
parts of. Yeah, we all have it in us, but not all at the same mixture.
Yeah, very much so.
Very much so. So if you see the Comelinidea or the Lilidea, they will have issues, but different issues.
Okay, so this is the grains and grasses group, and this is the lilies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Comelinidea, we see it's already about the balance. It's the family. It's not only me as a mother, but it's the family. I'm dependent on the family. I want to give to the family. I need the family. The family needs to support me. All those issues will come up. And only with those two words, you're directed immediately in those groups.
Yeah.
It doesn't say this is the remedy. It says consider those groups. And by the way, look at asparagus, because it has the words that you were just typed in. So it will help you in that way.
Yeah.
And you can then, if you have one word in the box, see the word in context.
Yeah.
See, you have Bambusa now, carries the whole family burden on his own expense. So that's something different than my family, I need my family for nurturing or something.
Yeah.
It's I carry the burden of the family. That's specific for Bambusa.
And breaks their back.
And breaks their back under responsibility.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or symbolic, but very, very often they have back problems. We know that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's all becoming clear.
Oh, I'm happy with that. Yeah. You see, it is of course all tying together, but that is a bit more explanation about the keywords, and you're always limited with keywords. I try to put in the minimum words with the maximum meaning or help. And that's why I'm now I just started, well, page 85, writing it all down in a book.
Yeah.
Because people ask me, and I cannot explain it like to little groups or one by one. I think it's better to put it all down in a book, although I was not planned to write a book again. But people said, where can I find all this information about all these families that you give? I said, well, it's spread all over the place. You can find it everywhere, but very often people are specialized in one direction, and then students feel they have to read too much.
Yeah, sure.
They have to go too deep into detail. It is. You don't have the time to go into details to read another book of 500 pages on some orchids or something.
No.
Although it's very interesting, but there's many families and so. So they say, why don't you write it all down, like the overview. And then the details you can always consult.
Yes.
Once you know what you're looking for. You need an orchid, then take a book of orchids.
Yeah.
Instead of reading it beforehand and try to memorize, which is hopeless.
Yeah. No, I think it's a real missing piece in the puzzle, especially for newcomers to homeopathy. You need to know a vast amount to have it all at your fingertips. So it's exciting to know you're writing.
Yeah, there's no better way of chasing away all your students in the school than saying, now let's talk about spiders. There are about 20,000 species. I mean, or let's talk about gemstones. We have 100 and no, about 1,500. That's, how can people even begin to consider to study this? And then they go to the Materia Medica, then they find 10, and how to choose them.
Yeah.
They don't know. There are no pointers. They're just very good provings, but not like a general pointer to consider a gemstone in this case.
Yeah.
And that is what I want to write. And of course, on the map, it already says the main thing. If you can't choose between a plant and a mineral, it's probably a gemstone, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
Because if a person can choose, it can be the homeopath who has difficulty to differentiate between the groups. So I have to explain the differentiation a bit better.
Yeah.
That in the end, after you read the book, there cannot be a doubt in your mind, not for a second, between the dimension and hopefully not between the kingdoms.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a very positive outcome, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's possible. It's not you don't have to have special gifts, or you don't have to study for ages. Of course, the more patients you see, the more it becomes clear in front of your eyes, because you need the theory first and then the experience that it actually works out like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it will be clear from the beginning. Everybody's, in my point of view, capable of grasping this. It's like a combination of common sense and simplicity. If you have the overview, you can boil it down to simpler concepts.
Yeah.
Although in the background, it's quite sophisticated.
Yes, very much so. I'm just thinking, I remember using the Family Finder on a case where the patient, all he talked about was his partner.
Yeah.
So you put in partner and then you get snakes straight away, which I thought was really interesting, because when I repertorized the case, he swore a lot. So the first rubric was cursing.
Yes.
I think the second was vertigo, his main complaint. And I forget now what the other one was, but one of the only remedies was black mamba coming through in all three rubrics. Yeah. And it was he didn't give me very much information, really. He it was a lot about his partner and their fighting. And so if you can, I think it's miraculous the way less is more when you're using the Family Finder. If someone just talks about themselves all the time, you could just put in me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean with simplicity. You just pick out the most obvious, like the most obvious, and it has to come out.
Which can sometimes be hard, because it flies in the face of what we're often doing with repertorization and with considering the totality and looking for, SRP, small rubrics, and often you get tied up in the kind of particulars of the case. And so it's nice to know that there's another approach you can take to sort of supplement that work, and one informs the other, I find anyway. Yeah,
but this still holds true. All the details hold true, but we started by studying the details without considering the whole. And what I'm saying is, in the first place, make sure your essence matches. Then go for the details. Because the details overlap with many, many, many remedies you don't know where to look for. That's the rubrics. We type in a rubric, we have 125 remedies, and that's a small rubric. Yeah. So why? Because they overlap.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't know, there's loads of different reasons why someone would feel forsaken. So, of course, the rubric's useful, but it doesn't go to the context or the deeper cause. Yeah. Or the way it's expressed.
You have to have the essence. And sometimes I say the essence is nothing more than stranger and peculiar on every level. Hahnemann was right. The only thing that is remarkable that you say, this person is only talking about himself. Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go for the details after that.
And yeah, look what it gives you. It's obviously there's some 3D groups and remedies there, as well as 2D. Obviously there's the silica series. You've got phosphorus, alumina, and natrium carb all coming through, and then these plant families, I'm guessing, are row 3 or row 4 on the map here, aren't they? They're row 3, yeah. So there's a real coherence to, you just type in one word, me, and you get a really coherent set of results to really help, ground where you're looking at different groups.
Yeah, because it's kind of obvious when it's about me, it's about identity.
Yeah.
It's about who is me anyway. And row 3 is identity row. So
yeah, absolutely. And when you do find 2D or 3D coming up, it really explains it, succinctly and very well. Lots of people who study kingdom will recognize this sort of language in relation to minerals. But as we were talking about earlier, now you can consider those other groups like sarcades, bacteria, viruses.
Yeah. And it says I, me, mine.
Yeah.
Because, and that's also like the context of the themes of 2D. It's all about me,
Yeah.
It's my family, it's my money, it's my position, it's my identity, it's my job, it's my responsibility, whatever. Why in 3D it's about you as well, you as a person. So in 3D they've seen you, like they observed you, they connect to you, they relate to you. And the plants, they relate to you emotionally. And the animals, which is also interesting, they test you. So they relate to you, but they test you. And that's in the beginning I've seen with other supervising homeopaths. They sometimes mistake between animals and minerals. I say, how can this be? And they say, yes, but I have to ask question after question after question. And I thought, when I have to question and drag so much to get the information out, it's mineral.
Right.
Oh, I see. I said, no, you have to question an animal because they won't give it to you immediately. They test you.
They're gauging their effect on you. Yeah.
Exactly. They give you a little bit of information and then they see if you're smart enough to understand, if you're attentive enough, if you're actually capable enough of helping them, what is your idea about them? And very often you feel intimidated with an animal case, not because they want to, but it's the way they react to you. They might have this little smile on their face, or they might have this look like, are you with me? Or they might even ask, do you understand? Do you understand? Like, I mean, is your brain working? I'm just checking.
Yeah.
They will give it to you, but you have to deserve it more or less.
Okay. Yeah. I get that.
Plants are different. They just give it all, But
Very
animals might want you to say what you want and they decide what they give. So in the end, you might feel, I know a lot about this partner, but not everything. There are things I don't know yet because the patient decides. This is information I rather keep for myself. You don't need this.
Right. I suppose there's maybe an aspect of the maintaining some superiority, or if the problem makes them feel less, then they might feel shame about talking about giving the whole hog, as it were. Yeah,
and that's how it plays out in consultation. So this is what the words mean, and this is how it plays out. And that is what I'm going to try to explain in the book, because it's not like they come in with this aggression, with foam on their mouth, and they're going to fight with you. It's much more subtle than that.
Much more, yeah. And it's one of the common misconceptions in the way people seek to sort of make a mockery of a kingdom approach, isn't it? By saying, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really not like that.
Absolutely not. Animals are very nice persons. We all are.
Yeah, yeah. I
But they
love
do have
this.
fights.
You know, it's very succinct. Who is the problem, not what?
Yes.
Very
Mm.
good for
Hmm.
animals. And it can be very subtle. It's just that they're talking about, you know, there's a lot of projection that goes on, I find, you know, because it's easier to disavow the, you know, the nasty parts of yourself and project them onto the other. You know, it's the other
Yeah.
that does it to you. And I've noticed that a lot in cases where animal remedies have helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I say they fight because you say partner fight, but we all fight, right? We
Yeah.
all have fights with the neighbors, with the boss, and all that. So that doesn't make us animals.
No.
Mm. But it's, as you said, the other is the problem.
Yeah.
Hmm. And
It's
in a fight, usually the other is a problem. But it can be like, you know, he's so rude and I can't stand it. Okay, that makes you plant.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the lens through which it's viewed and explained and described in the consultation, isn't it? You notice that somebody, they're constantly putting it back onto themselves, or
Yeah.
they're just, or you notice through, you know, as they're going, they're always talking about somebody or somebody else or other people in their life. And
Yes. And all the doctors that didn't do the job well and could cure them, and you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
you could, for instance, if you type in the word beat, like just when they said one word sometimes will lead you to something, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think of a boy who felt he was afraid to be beaten, eh? And I just put in beat.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have your astralis. I mean, sometimes it's simple as that. Mm?
Yeah.
He was bullied in school. He was afraid to be beaten. He had asthma. And I said, how does it feel? And he said, as if beaten. Okay, you have beaten on different levels.
Right. Yeah.
He had nightmares, being afraid of robbers. What could the
Okay.
robbers do? They could beat him up. Okay, we have beat. Beat in the case, put it in. There you go.
Nice. And then you need to find an asterale with a lung affinity or breathing affinity. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, this is not the whole case. The boy was also, you know, very sensitive to pain, very sensitive. His mother said, yeah, but he over-exaggerated, you know, and he has a little pain. He starts screaming and shouting like he's half killed. And he was also very angry, etc. So chamomile was kind of the obvious choice. I mean, I'm not saying you're the whole case, but
Sure.
you would otherwise maybe be tempted to think, oh, the boy is bullied and he's a victim, etc. No, the
Sure.
beating was the whole issue. Like, just put in the one keyword that comes back and.
Yes. Good example. Okay, great. So, did you want to take a look at the case that I sent you and
Sure. Yeah,
say
we
what
can
you
we
would
can
do?
have a look, see how it works, because you know the Family Finder is always my logic. Now I have to see if I enter other person's logic, if it still works, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I saw the mind map. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
no, the other one. I think it's a young man. Is it possible?
The mind map or the
Yeah, the mind map. The case of the is it the young
it's the
man?
young man, yeah.
I figured because there was some things that, and the mind maps the both of them the same person.
They're the same person. One of them's created from the questionnaire that he filled in, and one of them's
Okay,
created from the consultation.
I see. I see.
Okay, so
So
this one is from his questionnaire,
okay.
and this one is from the consultation.
Uh-huh. Okay. So well, that's why they overlap, right?
Yeah,
They,
absolutely. They're the
yeah.
same person. Yeah.
Yeah. And you already put in the right box above, small inferior powerless, empty, shocked, and panicked. So that doesn't bring
Yeah.
us to any conclusion yet. Now, if I have so many words in a case, of course, the way I always start an analysis with somebody is, you know, describe me the person, or if it's in the anamnesis already, I don't have to ask, and describe me the main complaint. So what I would like pick out of those things is like he doesn't feel valued. I think that would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
He has this funny thing like being afraid and being in a cellar, being in the dark, and then wants to go to God, to the sky.
Yes.
To like flying away. So I would take fly away. And then he has, thinking God, stars, the freedom, this strange thing of like flying away. There is this need to move you had on the other mind map, like he has to move all of the time.
Yeah.
So I would take the restlessness as like a general. Couldn't stay in one place, I have to keep moving.
Yes.
And then there's also something funny with his disgust, but not of his own parts. He has a disgust for smell, so the disgust I would put in. And there's something with sexuality as well, which is a bit vague in his case, that they were looking at his butt, and then he would have like sexual feelings or ideas with that. But I would put in, let's say, disgust, because the disgust was kind of outspoken. The wanting to be valued and not be valued, then the flying away from his fears to God, to the beautiful, to the solution, and the restlessness. So I think we have some of the aspects, not all of them.
So did you say valued?
Valued,
Valued and fly.
Fly or fly away.
And restlessness.
Restlessness and disgust.
Okay.
And see what happens. And you can always put in more or less. You can leave out the word and then and try to see where it brings you. So what comes up first?
Insects.
Is insects, and you might have thought about that because
I did prescribe an insect. Yes,
because he actually mentioned an insect. So
when he was younger, and very sort of abused really by his father. His attraction to and enthusiasm for insects was the kind of what he spoke about and mentioned in his questionnaire, and gave him there was a sense of sort of freedom that came from looking at butterflies or insects.
For him, like the the symbol of the solution, like could I only fly away. And if you see then the keywords for the insects, you can always check in your case, or if somebody has a case, are there more characteristics that I see in my patient? Maybe yes, maybe no. He didn't have the crush, but it could be that you said, oh, indeed, he feels like,
There was an interesting thing about hair as well, because it's from his consultation actually. No, maybe the questionnaire. After a haircut, I feel great, light and beautiful, and my self-esteem rises, and the hair grows fast.
That is so weird.
It's really peculiar, isn't it?
It is. So I did not even put it in, but let's say you put in hair. In that list, of course, insecta would have one more hit. Even if you left out one of the others, hair would be there because it's one of the main and also one of the very strange and peculiar characteristics that insects usually have something with their hair. Just imagine, insects don't even have hair in reality. But in our patients, it's either they're concerned they don't have enough hair, and they're worried about it, and they might even consult you for this reason, like I'm losing my hair, and you're going like, what? You still seem to have like 3 times as much as I do, but they're concerned about losing it. They are very proud of their hair. They like their hair when it's beautiful, when it's lot, when it's nice. They look at other people's hair how nice it is, and they are even either envious, or they compare themselves, like they have beautiful hair like me, or even in a 70-year-old, you can't believe this, in a 70-year-old insect case I had, the patient was worried in cancer he would lose his hair, like a man in his 70s.
Right.
I can imagine a few more worrisome things happening when you have cancer than losing your hair if you're a man in your 70s. If you're a 25-year-old woman, I understand.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, but not in his case. And he was actually saying so. Oh, you feel miserable, you lose your hair. I go like, what? You lose your hair? Can't be of any worry in that case.
It's great when someone tells you something like that.
Yeah. So you see, indeed, the hair is there, the restlessness, and wanting to be appreciated. If you have the insect, like you just show them the insect characteristics. Feeling small, of course, it's what they feel. He felt like beaten, but if you can boil it down, they don't all say so literally. It's feeling crushed.
Yeah.
That is their sensation.
For sure. Yeah. And I didn't put it in here for some reason, but in the anamnesis he talked about there was a moment where he was admitted to a psychiatric unit, and he escaped, and what he did when he was in that sort of space was to go into the town and use the public baths to wash his feet.
Wow. Well, that is very unusual again.
Yeah, but for an insect remedy, it fits into the coherent picture of the themes, doesn't it? The disgust and the mania for cleanness. And
absolutely.
Always cleaning themselves.
Always clean themselves, and very disgusted by smells, like the smells of decay, or the smells of sewage, or the smells of bad food, or of bodily odors and all that. They can be very disgusted by that, especially decay, what they associate with decay. And garbage and all that.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Especially the remedy that I gave, actually.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I did give Musca domestica.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Well, that's the one that is very, how to say, repulsed by decay.
Yes.
The smell of cadaverous.
And the sexual side of, like, imagining that people were looking at him in a sexual way.
Many insects have this a bit preference for, well, let's say a lot of sex, but also kinky sex.
Right. Yes.
And very often there's a little bit of shame around it.
Yeah.
Like wanting it, but still feel a bit ashamed that they have these preferences or these desires.
Yeah.
Because shame is also part of it. They don't want it to be exposed. They want it, but they don't want it to be public.
Yeah. You can see how those being into something that's a bit weird would you'd be worried about what people would think. And
exactly. So the shame is always a bit around in insects in general, but especially in Musca. I remember a Musca case where the husband, the family was at the morning breakfast table, and the wife made some, I don't know what, remark about last night. Let's put it that way. And the man was so like offended that he, in rage, walked out the house and didn't talk to her for days. And she said he said it was inappropriate to say this when the children were there. Now the children were grown-ups, so they probably had their own sexual life. And the worst that can happen is that they went a bit like, oops, my parents, they're still doing it. But that was all. And he was like, how can you say a thing like that when the children are present? The children. So he didn't want them to know that or imagine what their father did or whatever. But to be so, a reaction so not in proportion makes it a sensitivity that leads back to the remedy.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose one thing, you know, you read the proving of Musca domestica and it's quite extreme what happened, but we often get very uncompensated qualities coming through in the provings. You shouldn't expect your patient to deliver the information in such an extreme way.
No. And of course, what I now tell about the patient, he didn't tell me. The wife told me.
Yeah.
What he told was that she made inappropriate remarks. And then he like swallowed his angers and walked out instead of being aggressive and you know, abusive at using abusive language. So he justified it. Like, I keep my dignity, you know. I walk out with, she said it was like nothing, and he was enraged. You know? Yeah, we have to take a lot of compensation into account, of course, in animal cases in general.
Yeah, I think they're often more subtle than you expect when you're learning the difference between the kingdoms, and that's useful to know. I feel like there's a lot of animal energy out there at present.
Yes, but it's not difficult to live with the animal in you, and it's not accepted, like you say, to live it out uncompensated. It's taboo. You can't do this. It's about violence. It's about sex. It's about instincts. All those kind of things you have to either hide or compensate for.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, thank you. It's been a very interesting hour to talk to you. I think we covered a lot of useful areas about using the Family Finder. Really interesting that your take on the case was in line with my thinking too. Yeah.
Good, eh?
Yeah, it's good.
Good for both of us.
Good for both of us. And I've been using the Family Finder and studying it, and you know, the more time you spend just playing around with it, you know, put in the different families. We didn't really show how to do that, but you know, let's say you wanted to study a family or remedy, then you just go ahead and type it in here.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah. So if you don't know which families are in the Family Finder, you just go to the map and and take a look, and then you'll know what's there. And then you say, okay, today I'm going to study insects or viruses or mammals or rodents, and that's a good way to learn what's there. So and so you know what language is being used, so that when you do go to use the Family Finder in a case, you know what sort of words are in there, what sort of words you can use, because it might not be. You might have to adapt your way of thinking into Anne's way of thinking in terms of the language that's being used. But,
yeah, also good that you see insecta on top, and then you see what insects are already in the Family Finder. Of course, not all insects, that speaks for itself. Then you can go to the family members, that's the members in Opus. Yeah. So in the Family Finder is the list in the middle, and if it's not there, let's say, I don't know, apis or something, or whatever other insect, you can just check.
It's interesting here, there's a fear to be seen naked in Musca domestica, which is a bit similar to the patients and the hygienic.
To be exposed. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to get changed at school to get undressed because of the thinking that someone would view him sexually.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that's good. If you see then more characteristics, I said I didn't even put it in, but it is in the box or the cluster of typical symptoms for this particular remedy, then you feel more like, okay, now my case is confirmed. I was thinking about this and it seems to be confirmed, or the other way around. You can type in 2 words and all the other words don't fit. You might look for other families or groups that have those 2 words.
Yes, very much so. And I suppose I happen to know that you have a case of this remedy in a book. So you can right click on the remedy and do a normal RadarOpus search. So maybe it wasn't that one. But for some of them, you have the cases written up in your rare remedies book, don't you?
Yeah,
So
I don't think it's CMAX. I'm not sure which one actually.
I thought there was a case of Culex.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
it's the
possible.
other
But
Culex.
mm,
Let's have a look anyway. So this is another. We need to get the latest version, don't we? Let me just check. Is that the latest? Ah, that must be the latest one. So here you can see. Do you know if this is the latest edition?
I don't know.
No.
It looks like the other edition.
Yeah. Let me check. We can always edit this bit.
Yeah, there are no novelties in the previous and this one.
This one tells you the name of the remedies, which is probably
Remedies.
more useful, and it's got Brucella in it. This looks more up to date to me.
Well, I had this version where you can either choose all the cases and not knowing the remedies beforehand, or just have a look in the remedy list and say, oh, let me look at this case.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
No.
I'm sure I saw an insect case in one of your books.
I don't know by heart.
You've got the plague locust there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
So if we were going back and looking at the insects in as a group, and we wanted to check normal Materia Medica and RadarOpus, you can right-click a remedy and go for search. All references, for example. And then it doesn't work. Shame. Well, we can just get rid of this bit then.
Yeah.
I don't see why it's not working. It's finding it in the repertory. Never mind. There's always something. My RadarOpus is a bit broken at the moment because I've been testing the very latest version, and it's made it a bit strange.
Like, okay, you here have the rubrics, and it starts with activity, and so you can check it. How many of the, let's say, the main characteristics you find. If not in the case, or if not in the family finder, you still have your opus.
Yes.
Check it and okay, activity seems to be important, and then you know, disgust seems to be there. You see that on the. So it comes back. The characteristics come
absolutely,
back.
And then you could do a reverse repertorization, couldn't you?
Yeah. Because the family finder is not complete yet, but it's linked to the whole opus of database, which is enormous. So it's only like an in between, and then if what you don't find in the family finder, have a look in what you already have.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a good way to learn the repertory because you find all these smaller, peculiar rubrics when you search for a remedy, especially a newly proven remedy, and then it's a good learning experience. But these are new rubrics I added, so they won't be in Opus yet.
Okay.
But Musca domestica surely is, so you can search in all documents for Musca domestica. And there we have the proving from the New York School, and an article in the journal if you have the journal, and also yeah. And then
so
the rubrics. Yes. Yeah, so it's nice to go from something that's really boiled down to the essence to then opening up to all of the particulars and the complexity of the proving and the, like we were saying, the more uncompensated symptoms you get from provings.